All right, folks, settle in. Grab your coffee, your tinfoil hat, maybe a copy of Revelation if you've got it lying around. Because today, we're going deep. Old Testament deep. We're talking about the red heifer. Not just any cow, but the cow. The one that, according to biblical prophecy, could signal the beginning of something very big. Now, depending on who you ask, this whole thing is either an ancient purification ritual coming back to life, or the first domino in a chain reaction that ends with the third temple rising in Jerusalem and the world teetering on the edge of, well, let's just say biblical events. And here's where it gets really wild. Passover 2025 might just be the moment we see this ritual performed for the first time in thousands of years. That's right. After centuries of speculation, a group in Israel has been quietly raising a herd of perfect red heifers, shipped all the way from Texas, of all places. The goal? To sacrifice one and use its ashes in purification rites required for temple worship. But that's just the beginning. The significance of this event goes beyond a single sacrifice. It ties into geopolitics, prophecy, and of course, no shortage of conspiracy theories. What does it mean for Israel? For the Middle East? For the world? And most importantly, why should you care? Well, stick with me, because in this episode of Broadcasting Seeds, we're breaking it all down. First, we'll go back, way back, to where this all started, to understand why a red cow has so much power. Then, we'll talk about the modern-day push to bring this ritual back and the insane controversies surrounding it. Finally, we'll take a hard look at what comes next, because if this happens, the ripple effects could be huge. Before we dive in, do me a favor. If you like what you hear, if you love weird history, deep dive conspiracies, and biblical mysteries, hit that like button, leave a review, and share this episode. It helps the show grow, and trust me, we've got a lot of seeds left to plant. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's rewind the clock, way back to the days when Moses was still trying to keep the Israelites from losing their minds in the desert. The red heifer shows up in the book of Numbers, chapter 19, as part of a purification ritual. So specific, it makes TSA screening look casual. Here's the deal. The red heifer has to be perfect. No blemishes, no spots, no stray white or black hairs. Never been yoked, never done a day's work in its life. Essentially, it's the LeBron James of cows, born special, treated like royalty, and expected to perform on a legendary level.
And when that perfect cow is found, it's sacrificed, burned outside the camp, and its ashes are mixed with cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool. This holy ash cocktail is then used to purify people who've come into contact with the dead, because according to Old Testament law, even being in the same room as a corpse makes you ritually impure. And if you're impure, you cannot enter the temple.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just a random ritual. The purification process using red heifer ashes is required before temple services can resume. That means that if you want to rebuild the third temple in Jerusalem, the holy site that Jews have been waiting on for millennia, you must have the red heifer sacrifice. No heifer, no temple. No temple, no fulfillment of a whole lot of end times prophecies. Now, the problem? Red heifers don't just grow on trees. They're incredibly rare, and historically only 9 have been sacrificed. According to rabbinic tradition, When the 10th one is found and sacrificed, it's game over. Messiah time, new era, something big. So, for thousands of years, people have been on the lookout for the red heifer. Every so often, a farmer somewhere claims to have one, but under close inspection, bam, one little white hair, and suddenly your sacred cow is just a cow. Fast forward to today, and we're shockingly close to number 10. So, how did we get from ancient purification rituals in the desert to a handful of cows from Texas, potentially setting off a chain reaction of biblical proportions? Well, like most things in modern history, it started with a mix of religious fervor, geopolitical maneuvering, and, because this is the 21st century, good old-fashioned Texas ranching. Let's talk about the Temple Institute. This is a group based in Jerusalem that has spent decades preparing for the construction of the Third Temple. We're talking architectural plans, sacred artifacts, even training priests to perform the rituals just like they did in the days of Solomon. But one thing they've been missing? A kosher red heifer.
Enter the great state of Texas. In 2022, a group of ranchers who happened to have ties to Christian and Jewish organizations interested in prophecy bred a small herd of red heifers, ensuring they met the strict biblical requirements. When the Temple Institute got wind of this, they arranged to have 5 of them flown to Israel. Think about that for a second. 5 Texas cows on a mission from God, landing in the Holy Land. If that's not the most bizarre cultural crossover, I don't know what is. Now, fast forward to 2025, and at least 3 of these heifers are still considered viable. That means no stray hairs, no blemishes, no accidental yoke incidents. And with Passover approaching, all signs are pointing toward an actual red heifer sacrifice happening for the first time in over 2,000 years.
If you're wondering why this hasn't been bigger news, well, let's just say there are some major reasons why certain people would rather this stay under the radar. The biggest? The Temple Mount. See, performing this ritual isn't just about purifying people for worship. It's about setting the stage for rebuilding the temple. And if you know anything about Jerusalem, you know that's a powder keg waiting to blow. Right now, the Temple Mount is home to the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, 2 of the holiest sites in Islam. The idea of clearing space for a new Jewish temple? That's a geopolitical nightmare. And yet, groups like the Temple Institute believe this is part of a divine plan, meaning that whether or not the world is ready for it, they're moving forward. So here we are, staring down the barrel of something that could be historic. If this red heifer is sacrificed on Passover 2025, it will send shockwaves through religious and political circles alike. Some will celebrate it as a sign of prophecy fulfilled. Others will see it as an act of provocation that could destabilize the region. Either way, it's happening. All right, so let's connect some dots. We've got an ancient ritual, a handful of perfect red heifers from Texas, and a religious organization in Jerusalem laser-focused on preparing for the Third Temple. If this were just a niche religious event, it might not be that big of a deal. But this is way bigger than just one sacrifice. Because depending on who you ask, this isn't just a purification ceremony. It's a prophecy unfolding in real time. For some, particularly in Jewish and evangelical Christian circles, this is a huge deal. In Jewish tradition, the red heifer is a necessary step toward re-establishing temple worship. In certain Christian interpretations, it's part of the timeline leading to the second coming of Christ. Meanwhile, Islamic scholars are watching closely because any movement toward building a third temple could be seen as a threat to Al-Aqsa, which sits right on the Temple Mount. And then, of course, we have the conspiracies, because you knew this was coming. There are theories, some more outlandish than others, that claim this is all part of a bigger plan by shadowy elites to usher in a new world order. Some believe that powerful religious and political groups are engineering events to bring about the end times. Others think this is connected to secret societies, financial moguls, and even alien involvement, because honestly, why not? And let's be real. Anytime something this big is happening quietly in the background, you have to wonder what's really going on. But let's zoom out and look at the practical reality. If the red heifer is sacrificed in 2025, it could set off a series of events with major global implications. First, there's the religious impact. For Jewish believers awaiting the return of temple practices, this is a sign that the process is moving forward. For evangelical Christians who see the temple as part of biblical prophecy, this could be another checkpoint in the prophetic timeline. For Muslims who view the Temple Mount as a sacred site, this could be seen as a direct challenge to their religious and historical claims. Then, there's the political side. The mere discussion of a third temple has led to riots and violence in the past. If this actually happens, the Israeli government, Middle Eastern leaders, and global superpowers will all have to navigate an extremely delicate situation.
And finally, because this is broadcasting seeds and we always go one step further, what if this is being orchestrated? What if the people behind this movement want to trigger global unrest? There are always players behind the scenes pushing agendas, whether it's for religious power, political dominance, or something even more sinister. History shows us that major events don't just happen. They're made to happen.
So, the question isn't just if this red heifer sacrifice is significant. The question is, who benefits from it? And what's the real end game here? Because I have a feeling this story isn't ending on Passover 2025. It's just getting started. So, where does this all go from here? That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? If this red heifer is sacrificed as planned, we're looking at the first domino falling in a chain reaction that could lead to major religious shifts, geopolitical upheaval, and, depending on who you ask, the literal end of the world. Not exactly small potatoes.
But here's what I want you to take away from all this. Whether or not you believe in the prophetic significance of the red heifer, someone does. And history shows us that when powerful people believe something is divine destiny, they will move mountains to make it happen.
So, keep your eyes open. Watch the headlines. Pay attention to who's funding what, who's pushing what narratives, and what global events seem to mysteriously align with ancient prophecy. Because what's happening right now, it isn't just some obscure religious ritual. It's a chess move in a much bigger game. And as always, stay skeptical, stay curious, and keep questioning the official story. Because the truth? It's never as simple as they want you to think. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor. Like, share, leave a review, and spread the word. This is how broadcasting seeds grows, and trust me, there are a lot more seeds to plant. Until next time, stay sharp, stay questioning, and don't drink the Kool-Aid.
I got bad thoughts that make my mind scared, hold me hostage and they don't fight fair. Who gon' pray for me and wipe all my tears? Who gon' save me if you not right here? Move this darkness and make my sight clear. Take me your way cause I don't like here. Ghosts of my past, they feeling the night air. Wake me up, I'm trapped in my nightmares. Wake me up, I'm trapped in my nightmares. Drowning, I'm off the deep end. Apparitions of all my demons. All my thoughts are committing treason. All alone, who gon' hear me screaming? Manifestations of my fears. Regrets that stretched out for light years. Can almost touch the light, homie, it's right there. Body free but trapped in my nightmares. Wake me up, don't let me drown. All the lights are fading